Collaborating as a team is not something that comes naturally to everybody. As a leader, it's helpful to highlight the importance of teamwork. Leaders need to model cooperative behavior, recognize people who are collaborating well, and advocate for tools and performance measures that support collaboration. As a leader, finding ways to encourage and improve collaboration among members of your team is equally important for team success and your own. In this case study, we examine cultivating collaborative environments. Watch closely. Did the leader handle the matter correctly? Is there anything you would do differently? Let's take a look.
A familiar face is being asked to investigate ongoing allegations of corruption and misconduct in the village of Dolton. It's former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. CBS 2 investigator Megan Hickey has details on the investigation surrounding Dolton's embattled mayor.
Back in February, village trustees in South Suburban Dolton called for an outside investigation into allegations Mayor Tiffany Henyard,
to the best of my ability,
Congratulations,
has been misusing public funds while the village is millions of dollars in debt. Trustees say they need to see proper documentation surrounding Henyard's spending, including lavish trips and extravagant dinners, taxpayer-funded billboards, and other advertisements. Sources here in Dolton tell us they've already been interviewed by the FBI and in contact with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office concerning Mayor Henyard's spending. Those trustees believe the best outside investigator for the job
I feel very, very good about our record of accomplishment.
Is former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who left office in May. Lightfoot, also a former federal prosecutor, joined Charles River Associates as a senior consultant to the forensic services practice in March, according to the firm's website. The proposal from a group of Dolton trustees seeks to appoint Lori Lightfoot as an additional legislative counsel. Lori Lightfoot would also look into claims that Mayor Henyard tried to cover up allegations that a Dolton trustee sexually assaulted another Dolton employee during a village-sponsored trip to Las Vegas. Discussion and approval of the resolution is on a special board meeting agenda for Monday at 6:30 that will take place at the Dolton Park District Amber Room. In Dolton, Megan Hickey, CBS 2 Investigators.
We reached out to Lori Lightfoot for a comment. We have not heard back.
And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Scott Schneider.
And I'm Dawn Hasbrook. More controversy in Dolton. This time, it involves a well-known activist.
Tonight, our Dane Placco off the top with the bombshell details in a brand new lawsuit.
Andrew Holmes has been a familiar face in Chicago for years, well known for his work as a community activist helping crime victims and police. But now Holmes is being accused of a crime himself, sexual assault, in a civil lawsuit filed by a former employee of the village of Dolton and a Dolton police officer. In addition to his work as a community activist, Holmes serves as a trustee for the village of Dolton. The civil lawsuit against the village of Dolton, Thornton Township, Tiffany Henyard, and Holmes himself alleges that Holmes sexually assaulted a Dolton village employee who we're not naming because of the nature of the alleged crime, while on a village business trip to Las Vegas in May of 2023. According to the lawsuit, the employee had drinks with Holmes, whom she thought of as an uncle, began to feel disoriented, then passed out in Holmes' hotel room. The lawsuit alleges Holmes then called Dolton police officer Byron Miles, who was on the trip as part of Mayor Tiffany Henyard's security detail. According to the lawsuit, quote, Holmes began describing a host of his exploits from the trip, many of a sexual nature, to Officer Miles. At some point during his rant, Trustee Holmes made reference to him engaging in sexual activities with a Dolton Thornton employee, and there was some suggestion that the employee may not have had the ability to consent and or did not provide consent. The lawsuit says Officer Miles then began recording the phone call and FaceTimed Holmes. Trustee Holmes then panned the camera toward the bed where Officer Miles could see a woman who was partially undressed. The trustee then moved the camera to various private areas of the woman's body, displaying them on screen, and at times moving or removing articles of clothing as he transmitted the images. The lawsuit alleges when the woman woke up, she couldn't remember anything that happened the night before and was not aware of the alleged assault until informed by Officer Miles when they returned to Dolton. Quoting the lawsuit, at some point during that time, Trustee Holmes was in communication with Officer Miles, and again Trustee Holmes made reference to his exploits in Las Vegas. Trustee Holmes further advised Officer Miles at that time that he had unprotected sex with the female employee while in Las Vegas. The lawsuit alleges that when the officer told the woman what happened, she requested to speak to Mayor Henyard, who was allegedly concerned it could hurt her politically. The lawsuit says Henyard then advised the employee that if the information got out, Henyard would be ruined and all of the work she had done would be lost. Despite assurances that Henyard and then Henyard's boyfriend would handle the situation, the lawsuit alleges the female employee was eventually fired by the Village of Dolton. Officer Miles still works for Dolton, but alleges his duties were diminished and he faced retaliation at work. We spoke briefly to Holmes this afternoon by phone, who said he had no response at this time. Not to these allegations. I'm not bothered by it. Las Vegas police have reportedly opened an investigation into the accusations against Holmes. On Monday, the 4 Dolton trustees in opposition to Henyard hired former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to conduct an investigation into allegations of corruption in Dolton, including what happened on that trip to Las Vegas. Now, in January, the plaintiffs filed a claim with the Illinois Department of Human Rights outlining the same allegations. That claim has now been withdrawn with the filing of this lawsuit. So far, we've not received any response from Henyard or the Village of Dolton. Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
Everybody wants it to continue to be a show and not really show facts as it relates to what's really going on in our township.
And here we go, another contentious night for Tiffany Henyard at the annual Thornton Township meeting. Henyard is township supervisor, but tonight she was challenged by board members and the public. She was booed loudly at several points during tonight's meeting. Henyard said it's not fair for residents to ask so many questions in the township when she says they don't ask them in other communities.
Chicago's former mayor now has a front row seat to the inner workings of a much smaller municipal government.
To appoint Lori E. Lightfoot as special investigator for the Village of Dolton. Motion passed.
The former federal prosecutor turned mayor will now be a paid investigator, digging into the details of Dolton's multi-million-dollar deficit and alleged misdeeds of Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
I will follow the facts where they lead without bias and reserve comments from this night forward until the work is complete.
Lightfoot's to-do list is long, including finding millions of dollars in unpaid bills and a lavish village-funded trip to Las Vegas for Henyard and a few trustees and village employees last year.
All allegations of misconduct and all internal investigations, if any, along with any village, state, and federal law violations.
But her investigation could be stunted before it even begins. Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who wasn't present Monday, has the power to veto Lightfoot's appointment.
It's obvious that a veto will happen, but we have the majority.
Frustrated and financially strapped, Dolton taxpayers have questions about this $400 per hour investigation.
I'm a very determined person. We are prepared to do what is necessary to get to the facts.
But whatever Lightfoot finds, the former prosecutor lacks any authority to bring anything more than information.
As part of the terms of her hiring, Lightfoot has 60 days to complete this investigation, and she must report the findings to Dolton trustees and the public. While she can't recommend any charges, they say they can take the information that she finds and present it to authorities. We did reach out to representatives from Mayor Tiffany Henyard, but we've not heard back.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot will serve as an outside attorney for the Village of Dolton. Village trustees appointed her to investigate Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Henyard is facing allegations of corruption, reckless spending, and retaliation. NBC5's Regina Waldrop was at tonight's Village Board meeting.
Working as a special investigator for the Village of Dolton, that's now the position of Lori Lightfoot.
People in this village want something different, want to go in a different direction.
Residents packed into a special meeting where 4 Dolton trustees voted to appoint the former Chicago mayor and federal prosecutor to conduct an independent investigation of Mayor Tiffany Henyard and her administration. Henyard is accused of corruption and misusing village funds.
The residents of Dolton deserve nothing less than a government that is fully accountable, responsive, transparent, and effective stewards of your precious tax dollars.
Lightfoot will also investigate a taxpayer-funded economic development trip to Las Vegas last May. On that trip, Mayor Henyard and a handful of village reps, including 2 trustees and her former assistant. The woman claims she was sexually assaulted by an unnamed trustee in Vegas and later fired. The state's Department of Human Rights has launched an investigation.
We discovered that there is a lawsuit that was actually filed today, and we want to get a gauge of what's the village's involvement, what's our liability.
Mayor Henyard did not attend Monday night's meeting. Residents say they hope Lightfoot can get some answers and action.
I think it's a great move. I think she can be an access to this community and revealing the truth about what's really going on.
With her answering the questions and the trustees giving us what we needed to hear, I think it's a plus. We can't go wrong.
Lori Lightfoot's first day on the job is Tuesday. She'll be paid $400 an hour plus expenses. A report on the investigation is expected in 60 days. In Dolton, I'm Regina Waldrop, NBC5 News.
I'm making a motion to amend items B, 5B, and 5C to appoint Lori E. Lightfoot as special investigator to the Village of Dolton at a rate of $400 per hour to investigate the following matters. 1, the May 2023 Las Vegas trip, including all expenditures, all allegations of misconduct, and all internal investigations, if any, along with any village, state, and federal law violations. 2, the spending of ARPA funding without going out for bid and or failing to properly spend ARPA funds. 3, failure to provide a full accounting of all ARPA funds spent. 4, hiring contractors without going to bid or requesting the RFP. 5, hiring the contractors without the approval of the corporate authorities. 6, making payments to vendors without the approval of the corporate authorities. And 7, paying the village prosecutor Delgado Law Group over $900,000 over the last 2.5 years. So we're going to do a motion, and I'll make that motion. I'll ask for a second. We will go into discussion thereafter to further expand. So I made the motion. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Hearing a motion and second, first I will ask Attorney Odelson to further dive into the resolution.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. On the original agenda are 2 resolutions hiring Ms. Lightfoot as additional legislative counsel. I received a letter today from the Delgado Law Group threatening me and this board that if we proceeded along this route, there would be litigation and grave consequences. And advising that any actions we do here are in violation of the Open Meetings Act and against the law. I remind you, this is the same Delgado Law Group who we've just received the invoices from the last 2.5 years, including March, will be over $950,000. So rather than fight another lawsuit and spend more money on more lawyers, we amended the motion tonight. The resolutions were to appoint Ms. Lightfoot. That's what the motion is. And rather than appoint her as legislative counsel, which is our title, directly as a special investigator is more than appropriate. Again, we're looking to get down to the facts as to what's going on in the village and how the money's been spent or not spent. So rather than fight over this in court, we amended the motion. People are here tonight because they know on the agenda is the proposed hiring of a very learned former federal prosecutor to help the trustees sort out what's going on in the village over the last 2 years as far as misappropriation and misspending. That's why we amended the motion, the agenda as it's stated, to try to avoid yet another lawsuit.
Thank you, Bert, and thank you, Board. At this time, it's my privilege to introduce Lori E. Lightfoot, who most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with, who she is. But what you might not be familiar with is her background professionally, so I'd like to just breeze through it, and then Ms. Lightfoot's going to step up and make a brief comment. Ms. Lightfoot graduated from the University of Michigan in 1984 with a bachelor's degree in political science. She's also a graduate from the University of Chicago in 1989 with a Juris Doctor degree, which is necessary to get your law degree. She then worked as an assistant U.S. attorney in the criminal division for the Northern District of Illinois from 1996 to 2002, where she prosecuted a whole slew of different types of criminal cases, but notably she prosecuted cases that involved public corruption. She then worked was appointed the chief administrator for the Chicago Police Department Office of Professional Standards in that capacity from 2002 to 2004. She was chief of staff and general counsel for the Chicago Office of Emergency Management and Communications from July 2004 to February 2005. She was acting first deputy procurement officer for the City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services, February 2005 through October 2005. She's a past president of Chicago Police Board from 2015 to 2018. She was co-chair Chicago Police Accountability Task Force in 2016, and as we all know, she was the mayor for the City of Chicago for a 4-year term. With that background, I would like to introduce Lori E. Lightfoot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that incredibly warm and welcome reception. Let me first acknowledge and thank the many residents of this fine village who have extended themselves and given me strong words of encouragement. I can tell from this turnout, there's got to be close to 200 people here, that people in this village want something different, want to go in a different direction. And I want to assure you that it's for you that I am here. And that I will do my utmost, if this motion is passed, to make sure that I serve you with integrity. I also want to acknowledge and thank the trustees who are here. And thank you for your confidence in me to conduct a thorough and timely and independent investigation into the matters outlined in the motion regarding Mayor Tiffany Henyard and her administration. As someone who's made good governance the cornerstone of my public service career, I recognize maintaining the trust of those you serve and making decisions in their best interest is absolutely essential. The residents of Dolton deserve nothing less than a government that is fully accountable, responsive, transparent, and effective stewards of your precious tax dollars. As a lawyer and former federal prosecutor and mayor, I bring expertise in leading investigations of this kind and understand the complex challenges of governing. I commit to you that I will follow the facts where they lead, without bias, and reserve comments from this night forward until the work is complete. At the conclusion of this investigation, I will provide an assessment of the findings and the recommendations, and I welcome and urge the full cooperation by Mayor Henyard, her staff, all village trustees, vendors, and others who have information relevant to this inquiry. Thank you very much.
So what are your thoughts? Did the leader handle the matter correctly? Is there anything you would do differently? Let's discuss.